Hello, everybody. Welcome to Take the Black Live, the one and only show on the internet where myself, Dan Selcke of winterscoming.net, and Daniel Roman, also of winterscoming.net, and other guests you may or may not have, talk about all things sci-fi, fantasy, TV, movies, space lasers, dinosaurs, ray guns, wizards, swords, horses, elves. You don't know what we're going to talk about. And halos. Today, we have many exciting things on the agenda. And thanks for everyone coming. Hello, Christian. Good to see you. For everyone watching on Facebook and YouTube, we welcome you. Feel free to bring your thoughts, comments, concerns, queries into the chat, and we will engage with you in a relatable way. Daniel, how are you doing this Wednesday?
I am doing excellently this Wednesday. I'm ready to talk about some great nerd fandom stuff. And yeah, it's been a good day to be in the middle of a good week with lots of good, exciting sci-fi fantasy news.
I love the positive vibes. I'm also doing pretty well. You know, my lighting's right, the dog's in the back. Do you see Scruffy back there?
Oh, nice. Well, that's it. It's going to be a good show now. It can't be a bad show with Scruffy in the background.
One of these days, he will actually get up and walk up to the camera, and it'll be a nice moment. But I cannot get him to move when he gets nestled in there like that. Anyway, hi, Martha. It's a cute little guy. I thought we'd start with some nice Game of Thrones news. So have you heard, Daniel, anybody out there, of the Game of Thrones studio tour?
I heard that it was coming and that some of the stars from the show are back in it, but I'm not quite as up on the news about it as you are. So why don't you tell us about it?
I think I will. Okay. The Game of Thrones studio tour is this basically, it's a Game of Thrones museum, and they've been working on it for a while. It got pushed back because of the pandemic and everything. And it's this museum that's going to house like props, costumes, sets, the whole works in Linen Mills Studios in Northern Ireland, because they did a lot of shooting there. So it's kind of like a way to honor the contributions the show made to it. And it opens finally after much delays this week. And they had a bunch of stars come out. They had it's Ian Beattie, who played Meryn Trant, and Daniel Portman, who played Podrick Payne, and Natalia Tena, who played Osha. I know all these names. And Ian McElhinney, who played Barristan Selmy, all kind of just premiering it. And it looks pretty cool. Like, I mean, you know, if you've been to any sort of, there's anything quite like this. There was going to be like a Star Wars museum in Chicago, but there's this whole scandal where they tried to build it, but then organizations of like concerned people got together and didn't want it in this space. So they just moved it. But, you know, they'll have the Winterfell set, and they'll have all these costumes, and they'll have
nice.
Yeah, I think it looks pretty cool. Like, walk around the sets, you hear the music, you get like the audio guidebooks or whatever. And again, it's right there where they actually film things. So it's not just a Game of Thrones museum being erected in Des Moines where they didn't film anything, which would have been fine. But it's really on the actual location. There's Hodor's thing right there. I think it's pretty cool. Daniel, and it opens this Friday. Tickets are on sale finally after much delays. Daniel, is this something that you would go to if you could?
Oh man, if I was there, I would go in a heartbeat. No question. Yeah. You know, it's always cool to see like exhibits like this. I think the last one I went to was the Tolkien exhibit when it came to New York City. But I really like that they put this museum, like you said, right where they filmed Game of Thrones.
Right.
And I feel like because it was such a crucial part of the economy in Northern Ireland and the tourism industry kind of getting a new boom there, I think that's pretty awesome. I would definitely go.
It's very cool. It's definitely very cool to kind of have as a tribute. Of course, I wish it were like closer, but
yeah, right.
As Christian says, next time I'm in Europe, I mean, I wouldn't like take a trip to Northern Ireland just to see it. But if I were taking a trip to Northern Ireland for, I don't know, educational enrichment and spiritual advancement, it would be among the sites that I would hit.
Yeah, some, you know, when they're filming House of the Dragon, when they need to do some Winterfell scenes in season 5. Yeah, it's right there. Then by then we can go and see the Game of Thrones museum and hang out.
It's very cool. And yeah, like I said, and we get the comments here that, yeah, obviously we all would love to go. Love to go. Julie would want to go. But yeah, hard to get to. I get it. But
Yeah,
maybe they'll have like a
totally.
group rate sometime. I think they should offer it to us for free so we could cover it. I think that would be the civil thing to do. But so far,
I
nothing in
think
the
that's only
pike.
reasonable. Yeah, that's only reasonable. Call us
Yeah,
up.
yeah. This makes sense. Also, what I've also wondered is how they built that giant King's Landing set for season 8 and just to burn it down? I wonder if
Yes.
they got rid of that. Because I remember there were plans to like at one point, I thought went through. There were plans to like keep it around as like kind of a tribute or to use it for other things. But that was before they decided to go ahead with the King's Landing set House of the Dragon show. So I
Yeah.
think they actually did get rid of it, but they must be just kicking themselves because I mean, new show, lots of King's Landing crap. Would have been nice to have a literal King's Landing set in the back lot.
Yeah, and one that they can do whatever they want with, because obviously they can't go around wrecking Dubrovnik.
No, they can't.
So, and there are some pretty intense King's Landing scenes over the course of the Dance of the Dragons. So, yeah, I wonder if they're kicking themselves. But it also would have been kind of eerie if they kept it around. Like, could you imagine a tourist attraction that's just like charred wasteland King's Landing?
Do you know though that like that old set, so they built the charred version. I remember this from covering it. And then they had a whole nice version of it. They just like
Yeah.
put it over the charred bit and they just kind of took it. So they filmed the charred bits first and then they took it off to film they put it back on to like film the nice versions. We didn't get nearly enough of that set
cool.
for all the stuff. It is pretty cool. So I'm not sure if it was gone or if it's still there or what, but if it is, you know what to do, HBO. I'm sure you've already all over it. But anyway, yeah,
I always just assumed they wrecked it. Like
They
Wheel of
probably
Time did with the Two Rivers. But
They were
that's pretty sweet
talks
that
at
they
one
put.
point to keep it, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure what became of it. But yeah,
Cool.
yes, Game of Thrones studio tour on ticket sale now. Northern Ireland. I know I can't get there right now, but maybe someday we'll see. Hopefully it'll be there for a
Yeah.
while. Anyway, beyond that, Daniel, lots of stuff going on. Let's take a hard right for a second and talk about the every streaming service's annoying little brother in the streaming wars, Paramount Plus. So we talk about streaming wars, talk about Netflix, Disney Plus, HBO Max. HBO Max is kind of, I think we can call it one of the big dogs. It's got like 8 million subscribers.
Yeah.
But there are all these others, right? There are all these other smaller ones, Paramount Plus and Peacock, that are like kind of also rans a bit. They're trying. And then there are like the real Bush League D-listers, like AMC Plus, that's like, or Shudder. We're like, I'm not saying they're bad.
What a bird.
I'm saying that like, well, am I wrong?
It's
that,
fair.
These,
no, you're
these
not
are
wrong.
very, very niche.
Yeah.
I just got
I mean, unless they've
Plus,
got
so I could watch something on it, but yeah.
Yeah, unless they've got some kind of flagship show to bring people in, they're pretty niche, and they're only a handful. So,
and there are some that I think are really good at finding a niche. Like my brothers recommended that I get the Criterion streaming service, which is like apparently has all these like classic movies. Apparently, he says it's great.
That's cool,
and that's a pretty cool. That's an example of like a streaming service fulfilling a niche. Paramount Plus is a little different because I think they want to be Netflix level. They want to be Disney Plus competitor. And yesterday, the question is, can they? And yesterday I was in a virtual attendance at the formerly they call it like the Television Critics Association Winter Press Tour. It's a Zoom call where they tell us about shows that are coming up. I know, like, whenever I see that, it's a little pretentious. Like at the TCAs, like just you were on a Zoom call where they showed off a teaser, and then who plays Master Chief? Pablo Schreiber talked about how heavy the suit is. Anyway, I was on that call, and they were kind of previewing their new stuff, and maybe we can try and figure out if they have a chance to equal their competitors with a show like Halo on Paramount Plus. Why don't we take a peek at the trailer for this sci-fi epic and see if it tickles our fancy?
Yeah, that sounds good to me. I wanna watch it again. Seen it a few times, but you can never see a trailer enough.
So a few times. So you've played. So are you a Halo fan then, Daniel?
I would say moderately. I've played Halo, but I was always more of a PlayStation gamer, honestly. And Halo was like Xbox's flagship exclusive.
Yes.
So I've I played a few of them. I like that they're making a show. It could go real hit or miss, but the trailer looked better than I expected, honestly.
It looks pretty cool. I mean, military sci-fi, right? That's what we're talking about here. We're kind of in like grown-up Ender's Game. What else? Military sci-fi. Starship Troopers kind of territory, where it's a war drama. But guess what? It's space against aliens, which is fun. I can get behind that. I was a Nintendo kid myself, so I didn't mess with Xbox or PlayStation much, really.
Nice. That's a respectable path.
Sure. I don't think so. It's kind of like it has like a weeaboo sheen to it. Anyway, what's the challenge of like taking a video game like Halo, a famous video game, where you're basically just running and shooting aliens and trying to make like a layered story of a TV show with it? Do you think it'll be challenging?
Yeah, well, I think you just hit the challenge on the nail right there. Halo, those games did have stories, and the stories weren't bad. But nobody, that wasn't the main draw. It's not like people are like, yeah, the next Halo's out. I'm so excited for this riveting tale. Like, it was really about the shoot 'em up, alien mayhem. But they had a decent canvas to pull from. I think making it a show that can compete in terms of like the other adult dramas or like high teen adult dramas. I don't know what market they're shooting for with this, but fleshing that out to be like a compelling TV show with a really compelling story, I think that's going to be the biggest challenge. It seems like they're making the world look pretty nice. The Master Chief could have looked so cheesy, and he looks a little less cheesy than I would have expected. I like that they got the Cortana voice actor from the game. That's cool. Jen Taylor, yeah. She looks a little weird, the digital Cortana in the trailer, but I love that they got that actor. And the Covenant alien looks awesome. So will it be the thing that makes Paramount Plus move up the streaming wars? What do you think?
I'm gonna just go ahead and say no, so I have an answer, but I don't really know. I mean, I will say I don't feel a huge desire to watch it. Julie says pass, which I can't totally argue with that. I mean, I wonder again, like if you're not already into, okay, here's my little calculus. If you are a fan of Halo, maybe you're interested, but again, you don't really play Halo for the story, so I don't know how successful that'll be. And if you're not a fan of Halo like me, I mean, it's fine. I'm just not I'm not really into it. Why should I watch this rather than something that's been made for TV by someone who knows story really well? I think that's the challenge they got going.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge for really almost any video game adaptation, right? It's stuff like that relies so heavily on the ingrained fan base that it's so hard to have something like that go where it reaches across to a mainstream audience and can convince them to watch that instead of Peacemaker or any of the other awesome shows that are out or coming out this year. I think Arcane did it, so it can be done.
Arcane was huge. That's true. Yeah. Actually, I'm probably wrong. And you know what? Best of luck to them. By the way, and Paramount Plus has some good stuff, some popular stuff. Like as Nicole says, 1883 is definitely a big hit for them. Yes, but
is that the Yellowstone spinoff?
Yes, but as she points out, you can't watch Yellowstone on Paramount Plus because of the whole rights kerfuffle thing. Basically, Nicole, if you're wondering, what happened there, if you're wondering, was that what network? Oh, like for some small network has Yellowstone, which is this big Kevin Costner, like kind of getting very popular. But when they made it, they didn't know it would be popular, so they sold the streaming rights to I think Hulu or something, and then it blew up. And now they have their own streaming service, but they don't have the rights to it anymore, so they can stream the spinoff, but not the original show. It's a mess. But overall,
That's where the streaming wars get dirty with stuff like that.
That's where they get bloody. That's where they get interesting. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And as Nicole also says, I'm surprised Halo's a show, not a movie. That's Nicole, because everything's a show nowadays. It's easier to maximize profit that way. Movie, you go in once and you leave. What? That's stupid. No, we want a show where you're coming back and 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 subscribing to Paramount Plus to see what happens in Halo Season 4 when that comes around. They also have their other like big weapon is around, I'm just gonna like shoot in the dark, like around 900 Star Trek shows. I'm gonna try and name them off the top of my head. On Paramount Plus, they have Star Trek Discovery.
Okay.
They have Star Trek Prodigy. They have Star Trek Lower Decks. They have Star Trek Picard. They have Star Trek Section 31 about like some kind of I don't know. They have Star Trek Strange New Worlds. That's the new one, and they have a new one called Starfleet Academy. This one. Okay, that's it. I lied. It wasn't 900. It was 7. That's still a lot.
That's quite a few.
This is like that's a lot all at the same time, and some are already on, some are already coming. That's like the purest example I can think of zero to cinematic universe with like very few steps in between. Like they are making it happen. And again, I wonder if it's, is Star Trek that big a pull, do you think? Like, do folk want it badly enough to watch all of that and make it worth Paramount's while? How about you guys watching? Are you Star Trek fans?
I feel like, so I think Star Trek is a big enough pull to get someone to try a streaming service, because a lot of people did it when it was CBS All Access or whatever for just Discovery. But is it enough of a pull to do like 8 shows and tons of shows that make it its own cinematic universe? I mean, Star Trek always kind of has been its own cinematic universe, but they didn't all happen at once. So the question is, are you going to get those Star Trek fans to watch 5 or 6 or however many shows when they're used to watching, you know, like an episode of Trek or 2 a week that's like kind of an adventure a week type thing? And I think like Discovery has had issues maybe because it's tried to stray away from their adventure a week formula and tell a longer story. So I don't really know how that strategy is going to pan out.
They're doing okay. There was some comment yesterday that like it's only a matter of time before someone buys Paramount Plus and Peacock and the smaller ones like absorbs them. That it'll be like Streaming Wars 2.0 will be when the little ones are kind of whittled away, and we just have which I mean I can buy this. We just have like kind of a few big titans duking it out, more like a Microsoft Nintendo Sony situation, which maybe I will say, like, again, like I do this for a living. I kind of got into that Star Trek Picard show, which I've never watched any Star Trek before. So do I have Paramount Plus right now? I actually don't remember.
This is the face of the streaming wars. Just which ones do I even have anymore?
I'd like check my credit card bill to remember what I'm paying. But yeah, that is very common. As Julie says, Star Trek everything is bad as Walking Dead everything, which I agree with. And again,
fair.
Kudos to HBO for keeping it classy with Game of Thrones so far. And as Christian says, RuPaul's on Paramount too. Okay, RuPaul is everywhere, Christian, because there are some shows like I literally just ordered WoW Presents Plus to watch the British version of Drag Race that's going to be the international version. That's on the same time. This is very not part of the show. The Dragverse is very the Drag Race cinematic universe is absolutely enormous, and no one knows it's even happening if you're not like cued into it. TV is crazy. TV's a lot of crazy, but
it's a wild frontier.
It's a wild frontier. Best of luck to them. And moving on, do you have any thoughts on this, Daniel, on the streaming wars? Who do you pick to win?
Well, I mean, Netflix is the one that I feel like we kind of all feel like they've reached a point where they're too big to fail a little bit. I don't like that they upped their prices this month in terms of streaming war updates, right? Didn't they just go to like $15 a month, which is
They did.
basically the same as HBO Max, which if you get the ad-free version, which I feel like they could get away with because they're like premium television. That's always kind of been their brand. So it's interesting to see Netflix bump themselves up to a little bit more than HBO Max, because it's like we're the premium streaming brand, but are
No,
they?
you're not.
I don't know.
Netflix is the throw everything against the wall and see what sticks brand. I mean,
Yes.
what I read about that is that, just the way the economics break down, that was gross, is that they have to show their shareholders that they're like growing. But at this point, like pretty much everybody in the world who's going to get Netflix kind of has Netflix. Like, unless they start putting broadband into countries that don't have easy access to internet now, it's going to be hard to find new customers. So the only way they can keep lines on graphs going up and show them to shareholders is to raise prices. Like, it's the only way they can actually make more money.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, it makes sense that might be the case, but like, if we're seeing that now, like what does that look like for Netflix a year from now or 5 years from now? Where's the motivation then for them to, I guess, keep making like cutting edge content to pull people in if they feel they basically have as many people as they can have, or that's kind of the situation they're finding themselves in. So I feel like Netflix is like, they're at the opposite end of the spectrum from a lot of these other small streaming services where they're trying to find their footing. Netflix is so big that it's like, how do we keep our dominance basically when HBO is, their service is not bad. It's creeping, and they did pretty well last month. I think they kind of had some of the better content of any of the streaming services in January. So yeah, we'll see.
Here's my scenario. In the relentless pursuit of new markets and subscribers, HBO thinks it's not HBO. Netflix thinks it's economically worth its while to improve the internet of impoverished countries. So it lays of its own free will infrastructure, and it drags people out of poverty. Also, they can get a Netflix subscription. That is that is the best case scenario, but I somehow I don't think it's happening. But it might make a good sci-fi short story.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, if that's what this brings Netflix to, then I'm all for it. That sounds pretty good. And hey, Netflix, call me because I could use some better internet.
Yes, there you go. Start right here.
Yeah, please.
All right. Beyond that, what's our next topic, Daniel? Why don't you take this one as a resident wheel expert?
Sure. Yeah. So it came out this week, or there was a video released where Brandon Sanderson, who's one of the authors of the Wheel of Time series, he basically came in and finished it after the original author, Robert Jordan, passed away. He was on a podcast that he runs with another author, and they talked about the things Brandon Sanderson would have changed about the Wheel of Time show, because he is a consulting producer on the show. They asked for his input on a lot of stuff. And then due to COVID and general mayhem, there were episodes he wasn't allowed to consult on, or he didn't get the scripts in time because everyone was just trying to figure out how to get the last 2 episodes of the show filmed after the pandemic happened. So there were some things where they didn't use his ideas. There were some instances where he didn't get to give ideas that would have made really easy fixes. And he talked about them because I guess he doesn't have any clause in his contract that prevents him from talking to the fandom, which is pretty cool. So yeah, he discussed some stuff. The first one he really talked about was Perrin. We're gonna get into some spoilers here if you haven't seen the Wheel of Time show. But yeah, so Perrin, I'm sure you remember, anyone who's seen it remembers, they kind of fridged Perrin's wife there at the beginning of the show. They made Perrin have a wife, which was a change from the books, so that they could basically
to start with. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember the showrunner talking about doing stuff like that so that it didn't seem like the Two Rivers characters were starting from zero in the show. They already had established lives. Perrin had a wife, then he axed his wife quite literally and accidentally in the premiere because he thought she was a Trolloc, and it was pretty sad.
It happens.
Yep. So to start with, that was probably one of the most controversial things, I think, in the early show for the fan base. Just because it's kind of a weird choice with a show that's like trying to be conscientious and adapt Robert Jordan's works, but do it in a way where it's maybe leaving some of the like problematic gender norm stuff that Jordan occasionally had in his books and in the past. It
was dumb. So it was straight dumb right off the dome.
It was not good.
It didn't kill the show for me or anything, but it was like, that's a strange choice for you to make. I'm thinking that then, and then I was just like, I'll give it a chance. Maybe it works. And I was like, it didn't really work in context either, but okay.
Yeah, totally. And that was basically how Brandon Sanderson felt as well. He talked about, so first, the biggest thing was he wouldn't have had them kill Perrin's wife. He had actually originally pitched them to say, I agree with you killing off someone important to Perrin as a way to push him out of his comfort zone. That's a good idea. But maybe we could do it with Master Luhan, who was Perrin's like blacksmith mentor. Have him accidentally kill Master Luhan. But they went the wife route instead. And whether that ever pays off or just remains a thorn in the fan side, we'll see. But once they made that
I
choice,
like this idea better. I think it's better.
Yeah, I think so too. I think, Luhan's cool in the books too, but I think that's that's kind of a classic fantasy trope to go with, right? The mentor getting killed and the person going out on their own. So to have him accidentally kill the mentor, I still think would have been pretty shocking. But yeah, having it be his wife who has like, I don't remember, like 3 or 4 lines. Like she doesn't get a lot of anything in the show.
It just raises so many new questions. Like you can have a blacksmith mentor who's teaching you, but like a wife, when did you meet? When did this happen? There's like, that must have been a really important relationship. It's not going to get explored at all because she's dead within the first 3 seconds.
Yeah. And they took it from a tidbit in the book where Perrin's thinking about how if he had stayed in the Two Rivers, he would have married this character. And that's the character they had him be married to in the show. So it's cool that they still drew it from the books in some way. But in terms of his long-term arc, Sanderson had basically said that if he had the chance to comment on how Perrin's arc just kind of fizzles at the end. It kind of feels like they had him talking to Pada and Fane, who's the dark friend who shows up at the end of the show, basically because Matt wasn't around to talk to Pada and Fane. That's kind of how it felt because Matt was the one who had the relationship with him. So Sanderson was saying he would have had Perrin follow the way of the leaf, which is what the Tinkers follow. It's kind of the pacifist like way of life. Have him try to follow it, realize it wasn't for him, lash out and be violent, and then struggle with that. But instead, he just kind of had an internal struggle that never really translated much on screen. So that was Perrin.
I do sympathize with them. I mean, and he said in this interview, right, that like the pandemic interfered with those last 2 episodes, especially like he wasn't able to consult on them, which, and we think the whole like Matt couldn't go was probably also a pandemic thing. Like he couldn't get cleared or something, which would have had them, like, you're right. Like Matt should have been one to talk to Pod and Fane. That would have made more sense, but they couldn't do it because he wasn't there. Like it couldn't have been easy.
Yeah, no, totally. And that was, the end of episode 6. He specifically said that filming the 7th and 8th episodes were what they hadn't been able to do. And that somewhere in that mix is when they found out Barney Harris, who plays Matt, wouldn't be able to come back, which is like a nightmare scenario for a show like in its first season.
Very hard. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can definitely sympathize. I heard that with the finale, a lot of their Trolloc scenes too, like they couldn't do crowd scenes when they came back. So they originally had like
right.
this big battle planned, and they couldn't get their Trolloc actors back and do these crowd battle scenes. So that's part of why the Trollocs are so much CG in the last episode. And I don't know, the 5 women linking to use the one power to destroy the Trollocs, they all happen
Which
to
did
be,
seem a little small scale. I remember thinking an episode where they were like, every woman who can channel, get them together in the village, get them all together, we need them. And then I was like, oh, it's gonna be big. It's like, wait, there are 5? That's it?
Yeah.
Why don't you just say, like, go get Trish and Tammy? Like, that would have been the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, aside from Nynaeve and Egwene, there were literally 3 people in the city who could channel. So yeah, that definitely
it probably was. I mean, and again, I want to sympathize. It must have been hard with all the and they're like new at this point. It's not like now where at least like we have the boosters and the cards and all the protocols and everything. Like, it was tough.
Yeah, like they were into filming their first season when it started. So yeah, I can't imagine how much of a challenge that must have been. But which is, again, it's too bad because like with the scripts, Sanderson had some real easy fixes for the finale that he just didn't get the chance to pitch. And one of them was for Nynaeve and Egwene, just having them be not skilled enough to wield the one power to fight.
I like that.
So at the end, they basically come to the realization of if we helped, but if we had actually gone to the tower and trained with the Aes Sedai, how many more lives could we have saved? So the season would have ended with them just deciding to go train. Yeah, that feels really true to the books because like Nynaeve has a block on her power. She can only use it when she's angry, and that's like almost half the book series it takes for her to really get over that.
Happily, she's always angry.
Yeah, exactly. Except when she needs it. But yeah, so there was that. The last one was changing it so Lan wasn't just running through the woods for the whole episode, by having him change his mind, basically seeing the Trollocs coming and then going back to help Nynaeve fight the Trollocs, and having a shot that, he had this idea for a shot that basically would have mirrored the shot in the first episode where Lan is fighting around Moiraine while she's channeling, but have that flip and be Lan surprise coming to help Nynaeve. And for a minute, they're fighting together. It's a cool idea. I like it because it shows, like, in terms of where their plot lines are going with Lan and Nynaeve, that feels pretty nice. But again, they couldn't do crowd scenes. So I don't know how they would have done that.
Yeah, it was just I mean, I liked the last episode. I heard a lot of blowback to it. I thought it worked, but I mean, I feel like I am willing to cut them a little more slack, especially given the difficulties. Because clearly, like, I don't think a lot of that was their first choice anyway. But I still think it worked more or less. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens, by the way. And by the way, let's read some comics. We have some good ones, and the Facebook was being a little weird for me. We're in agreement about the chop your wife like a trollop trope, as Nicole calls it, was a bit unnecessary and a waste. And no connection to it really. I agree with that. So yeah, I think we're on the same page. Do you are there any fixes you would have implemented, Daniel? Are you one of those guys who like makes your own little head canons after you watch a thing? Like, how could this have been better? You are a writer.
I am. I feel like, man, I don't know. I'm not someone who immediately thinks of those things unless they really pop out at me. So I feel like it's hard with the first season of The Wheel of Time because knowing the troubles they had, like you said, I'm just like, I'm very willing to cut them slack. I definitely had those feelings with The Witcher. Those popped out a lot more easily for me. I would have changed these things. But with The Wheel of Time, it really feels like they probably couldn't go with plan A, plan B, and got stuck even with plan C or D for some of those scenes. So like I loved in the first book the fact that all of them went into the Blight. Rand and
Yeah.
Egwene, like it's basically, it feels like a quest into the Blight with the whole party. And considering how split up everyone was throughout most of the book, I really enjoyed that. So if it was up to me, I would have loved to have seen that translate on screen. I can see why they made the choices they made. I think changing the one with Lan would have been my first choice, and maybe not having the fake out death with Nynaeve, because I think they overused fake out deaths a little bit.
I do too. As I wrote in my article about things the Wheel of Time could have done better and also did better, which is on WiC right now. Yeah, I fully agree with you about them all going to the thing. I think that would have been nice. But we'll see what they swing back with next season, which I am looking forward to. By the way, before we move on, a while ago, folk were given all the streaming services they have, which I think is kind of fun. So just for the record, people, okay, I have Netflix, HBO Max. I don't actually pay for all of these, but Hulu, I have them. I have access to Netflix, HBO Max, Hulu, Amazon Prime. I'm gonna get Apple TV Plus back again because I want to watch some more stuff on that. I just got WoW Presents Plus for one show. I honestly don't know if I have Paramount Plus right now, and that's I think what I have. Daniel, what do you have?
Yeah, so I have Netflix and Prime, which I turned on basically for Wheel of Time and The Expanse. We'll see if I keep Prime. And I recently activated HBO Max and have been trying that out, which I've had on and off because one thing for me is I have satellite internet. So some of these streaming platforms work better or worse for low broadband internet. And HBO was one where like 6 months ago, it was unusable. And now it works pretty well. So it's cool to see how they're making back-end changes to some of the programming.
That is nice.
And I recently tried Apple TV as well. So I think those are the 4 I have. Hulu, I don't think I have at the moment.
I will say I have access to Hulu, but it's someone else's Hulu. Just don't tell anybody that. So like they know, they're fine with it. I'm not super duper paying for that one, but it's good to have. Anyway, let's move on to our weekly wonderful segment. What are we watching? Where we and all of you out there tell us, what are you watching recently? What are you jamming out to? And Nicole has Prime too. I think she wins. She probably does. I can't go all the way back to read all you have, Nicole, but I know it was an impressive list. I do like get some and then drop some depending on the show I'm watching at the moment. Sometimes, like my permanent ones though are like Netflix, HBO Max, Amazon Prime because I have that, and Hulu, which is nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Daniel, are you watching? Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, like, come on, what am I made of money? Daniel, are you watching anything at the moment? You want to sound off on?
Yeah, so I started Peacemaker last night, which is hilarious and pretty awesome. It feels like James Gunn. I saw a while back him being like, I'm sick of making superhero stuff. And this kind of feels like his way of just venting. He's still superhero stuff, but he rags on superheroes throughout it. And it feels like he's definitely flipping those superhero genres on their head, kind of in the same way that shows like The Boys do. But maybe a little less intentionally or with a slightly tighter scope because it's a lot about this specific character. So yeah, I enjoyed that. I'm getting caught up on it right now. And aside from that, the Book of Boba Fett's the other one I've been watching.
Right.
I haven't seen today's, which I think maybe you have, so you can talk about that a little bit. But yeah, so what have you been watching?
I watched Book of Boba Fett today, and it was good. I liked it, although it's bizarre. Once again, like last week, it's all about this is an episode of the TV show The Mandalorian. The only difference is the opening title says The Book of Boba Fett. It's all about Din Djarin. Baby Yoda's in it. Luke Skywalker's in it. Ahsoka Tano is in it. Boba Fett
Oh,
is in
man.
it for one cameo scene. I don't think he has a line. The show is saying Boba Fett, but it's not in it at all. It's so bizarre. Like,
Yeah.
I liked the episode, but this could have been an episode of The Mandalorian season 3 very easy. And I don't like having to watch other things to enjoy the one story. Like, it's very comic book,
Yeah,
right? It's
that's
very
fair.
like, this story will continue in this other comic that's being published of some other team or whatever. It feels a little underhanded to me. I'm not a huge fan. This should have been this should have been the Mandalorian. The Book of Boba Fett doesn't seem like it really knows what it is, or like it feels like it's being intruded upon. 2 straight episodes of nothing Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Boba Fett. It's wild. Even though it was kind of good, if this were a different show. So I have no idea if I like it or not.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I accidentally called it The Mandalorian the other day talking about it. Just had a total slip because it is like 2 whole episodes of a 7-episode season, right? Like, it's not like they have 20 episodes and they're doing a few side ones, like 7 episodes total. And 2 of them are just about the Mandalorian and don't show Boba Fett hardly at all. It's a weird choice. It does feel like it's serving the greater, like you made the comic book comparison, I think is pretty good. It's serving their greater plan more than like just telling a really compelling Boba Fett story.
Which feels cheap to me, because you know they have the resources to do it straightforward. They're just choosing not to, but to annoy me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's specifically, I think that's what it said, like on their storyboards. This will really annoy Dan Selcke, therefore we should do it. But yeah, that's the danger with the Marvel Star Wars stuff as it goes on and the mega franchises, is you have to watch everything to get everything out of the shows. But yeah, the Book of Boba Fett, I loved last week's very Mando oriented episode. But again, I called it The Mandalorian on accident because it was just kind of reminded me how much more I like that show.
And you were correct.
Feels too bad.
I think you'll enjoy this one. I'll be curious to hear what you think about it. By the way,
yeah,
I forgot that I have Disney Plus too. I mean, everybody has Disney Plus. It's like $7 for now. And y'all are watching. Yes. I don't know why it's easy to forget that one. You know, that one's weird though. Like, I have it and I don't get rid of it because it's cheap. I don't spend much time on it though. If I had kids, I'm sure I'd spend more time on it. Whatever. As Nicole said, I think they realize. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was just going to agree with you. I have family members who have kids who like swear by Disney Plus, but I basically go on it to watch the weekly thing that comes out on it, and then I'm off hanging out on Netflix.
I Simpsons nostalgia for a while on it, but even that got old after a bit. So after that, it's kind of like not a whole lot to do on it for a grown man. For kid, I'm sure there's great stuff. As Nicole says, I think Boba is that they realize Boba is boring and Mandalorian is 10 times more interesting, which, like, I think you're right. I don't think they tried to make Boba interesting though. I think they just kind of went into this assuming it was this puzzle piece and not like, I agree with you that there's an interesting deficit, but I think that's their job to close it, not just to bring in a ringer and make their show more interesting by proxy.
You know, it's fascinating. The Mandalorian is basically the old Boba Fett character in some sense, right? Like the person who created Boba Fett said they should have never taken the helmet off because it makes him less mysterious. And that's been a huge thing in The Mandalorian is making it a giant deal when he takes the helmet off. And like, he's kind of this standoffish character who doesn't say a lot. He has the helmet on all the time. And like, that was who Boba Fett was originally. So it's like they made a new Boba Fett for a new show, and now they have old Boba Fett and they don't really know what to do with him.
That is so true. That is a great point. That's very accurate. By the way, I just noticed your fans had a shirt, by the way. Nice.
Why, thank you.
Good threads.
I'm repping today.
And other folk are watching Outlander March 6th. Of course, Martha, we'll be watching that. We're going to have someone on for that when it comes on. Julie binged The Boys. It was okay, but didn't enjoy as much as Warrior. They're very, very different shows. I like The Boys. I loved Warrior 2. You got to watch Warrior sometime, Daniel, if you ever get around to it. HBO Max. And I don't know when the third season of that is coming. It's not terribly popular, so I'm not sure there's a giant like impetus, but God, they should, because that show is great.
I need to
Christian's
check
watching.
that out.
It's really good, especially the first season, and then the second season ends really strong too. Christian is watching Final Season of Lost in Space, which I've heard is pretty good, and Resident Alien. Christian, how is Resident Alien? Because that show looks kind of interesting to me, and I like Alan Tudyk a lot, but I haven't taken the plunge. Would you recommend Resident Alien, Christian? Because it does look intriguing. Have you heard about this, Daniel? It's a Alan Tudyk, like
I have
one of those great. Hey, that guy does not say no to work. He is everywhere. In like from Firefly to iRobot to just like that movie where he's a hick who is mistaken for a serial killer. That guy gets around. He is funny. He is reliable. And he plays in Space Alien, who is heart grows 3 sizes that day because the Earth things are so great. It does look kind of cool. I might check it out. If
I like that actor. Yeah, I like the actor. I haven't seen the show. I have an older family member who loves that show and has been trying to get me to watch it for months, but I haven't caved and given it the chance yet.
Well, now it's that member and Christian. So what, Christian, where do you watch it? Is it like just on Sci-Fi? Do I have to get sci-fi.stream.gov or something to watch it? Dodgeball, right. He was funny in that too. Alan Tudyk is just good. I also tried out Dodgeball. He's in everything. He's one of those actors who does not say no. There are a few of them who just like pop up everywhere, but never became giant stars. Interesting stuff. There's a whole list of that people. I also tried out that The Legend of Vox Machina show on Amazon Prime, which is an adaptation of a bunch of voice actors getting together to do Dungeons and Dragons campaigns. Yep. It's the kind of show that I feel like I should be above this, but then I'm like, I wonder what the next episode is like, and I just watch it.
Okay,
it's cute. It's a little kind of generic D&D campaign, goofing off with your buddies, but it's cute. It's cute.
Yeah, is it cute though?
I mean, it's cute, but it's cute. It's fine. I liked it. It went down pretty easy. I'll probably watch the next one that comes out. It's also a half hour. I always like that. And I will probably try and see if I could get general cable. I don't know if I have the Sci-Fi channel. I will check it out. At least there's no new streaming service I have to get. And finally, we're always going a little long on these, which is fine because we're having such a good time.
Ooh.
We have the WiC News Lightning Round. It is. Whew. Is there anything else to say? But I want to keep it moving because we're almost quitting time. Where we go
it's time
over
for the lightning round.
Exactly, it's time for the lightning round. Stories where we could not get to them in the main body of the show, but we still want to talk about them very briefly. We each have 20 seconds to give our reactions. Daniel, are you ready for the WiC News Lightning Round? Timestamp February 2nd, 2022.
Okay, I'm ready. Yes.
Okay, let's do it. Daniel Roman. The Last Kingdom, 7 Kings Must Die, the Last Kingdom movie, after the show is over, has begun to film.
I love it. I think that's super exciting. The Last Kingdom has been an awesome show so far. It has had almost no bad moments. So yeah, I'll watch a movie of it, and I think it'll let them finish the story. So all to the good.
Pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
Coming in under the radar. Love it.
Take good that start. Buzzer. Seconds to spare. All right,
Julie, we're gonna do fine.
Okay, so Dan, a sequel to last year's Mortal Kombat movie is coming.
I watched the Mortal Kombat movie slightly under protest from someone who wanted to watch it on HBO Max. It was about as okay as I thought it would be, but it was a pretty big hit. I mean, people like it when the heads explode, so good for them for making another one. And more video game movies. They're going to start becoming more of them. So I get used to it. Look at that.
Nice.
So good. Okay, here's a complicated one. Let's even do this in 20 seconds. So there was a rioter at the Capitol building January 6th who tweeted like an "I choose violence" Cersei quote after he left, and then it was used in his trial to establish criminal intent.
Yep. Yeah, so someone put on their social media, I choose violence. The prosecutor explained who Cersei was to the court in the memorandum and why that was a bad thing, and showed their bad state of mind, and explained the plot line of season 6 of Game of Thrones. I think it's hilarious.
It's pretty damn funny. Oh, we're doing so good.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, we got it. We got the rhythm today. Okay,
Yeah.
So Dan, Kyle Allen cast in Netflix's live action He-Man movie.
There were like 13 He-Man things. So He-Man is this like 80s like toy thing, I think. I never really watched it, but I do know that guy does not look huge enough to be the He-Man I've seen in commercials and stuff. Isn't he like enormous bodybuilder guy? Maybe
Yes.
he's like the before and after thing where okay. Enough of that.
Yeah.
Okay. Just today it was announced that Terry Crews, Parker Posey, and many others are joining a new Walking Dead spinoff, Julie, Tales of the Walking Dead. It's more like one-off episodes. Daniel, do you love?
I think, there's so many Walking Dead things. I feel that it's hard to get excited for them because there's so many.
Yeah.
I like the idea of them doing one-off episodes though, because I think the strongest episodes of Walking Dead have been the self-contained stories. So I'll give it a chance, maybe.
Okay. This doesn't count. I have to read this comment. Nicole says the judge should have shouted shame, shame, which is pretty damn funny.
Oh man. Yeah, that would have been good.
That doesn't count as going over. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So Dan, Red Notice director is overseeing a live action Dungeons and Dragons show, which will be the cornerstone of a new D&D cinematic universe.
D&D cinematic universe, because of course it will, because that's what everyone wants.
Yeah.
Again, isn't it funny how it like when it rains it pours? There are like 18 Star Trek shows, 13 He-Man things, and now there's like going to be. I just talked about a D&D show I watched. Now there's going to be a live action one, and they want to like build a bunch of others on top of it. It's fine. I mean, they all can't. I have more to say, but okay, never mind. I can't. But we're going good this time. Okay, this is pretty cool. Daniel, YouTuber Alex Birkin has created a functional lightsaber he holds in his hand that can cut through steel. Although I think it only lasts like at a couple seconds at a time.
That is both awesome and a little terrifying, that picture.
Yeah, it is. The lighting.
Right? The lighting makes it look like he's gone to the dark side. But I think the fact that he made it is very cool. And hey, props for the dedication.
Bam. Okay. So what I want to say about the other thing was that you're right that it makes the thing less special the more. Okay.
All right. That's fair. The buzzer knows no mercy. All right. The final question of the lightning round. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Game of Thrones season 8 was the 6th most pirated show of 2021.
Pretty cool, huh? I mean, it's like, so that would be 2 years after it's done, and the final season is still making the top 10 list of pirated shows. I mean, I'm a big believer in that pirated shows are kind of like a mark of pride, not something to be. I mean, you don't want your shows pirated, but
totally,
it's an indication people really like your thing a lot. And HBO has to be happy with that because it means it's just very high. I thought we did pretty well. I liked when I used your leftover time to talk more about my thing. I thought that was fun.
That was good. I enjoyed that as well.
That's a new technique we can try to use in the future if we didn't say everything we wanted, but we still want to talk more. There's layers to this game, like how we're at like an advanced meta level at this point, where we're kind of coming up with new techniques, and we'll have to debut those. And we'll debut some of those next week, perhaps, because we are here every Wednesday on the Winners Coming Facebook page and the Winners Coming YouTube page, where we talk about all this kind of stuff and more. And we'll be back next week. Love your comments. Thanks for watching, everybody. And we will see you then. Goodbye.
Yeah, take care, everybody.